Okay, so you wrote this morning, Reflections on a Century of Junk Science. So aside from your skepticism of corona, what are some of the examples of junk science in America in the past that's led you to this point that you're so skeptical right now?
I'm inherently skeptical for that reason. In fact, I just read a book, a very good book. It's by a liberal. It's called The Guarded Gate. It's about the history of eugenics in the United States.
Yes.
And he makes the point, it was a bold point for someone of the left to make, that it was a progressive science, that it was run from the academies and from the lofty progressive, ivory towers of, or is it Ivy Towers?
Ivy Tower? Is it Ivy Towers?
I think it's one or the other.
Okay, either. I know what you meant, though.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And it was pure science. I mean, it was the science of the day.
Yeah.
And when you read it, it makes you cringe today. It was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things I would say they're almost comical. But they're so outrageous. And
Jack, how have people become so? A stereotype of the left is that God is dead, religion is What am I trying? It's cultish, right? It's not real. It's nonsense. But how has science become so religious on the left now to where you can't question science? Like, for example, you're not allowed to question the science behind coronavirus or the science behind climate change.
yeah.
But you've seen very clearly how people are now questioning the science behind just human biology. What's a man? What's a woman? Where do they belong? Who is what? You're older than me. You're more experienced. You know your stuff. How did we get to this point where science has become the religion of the left? And
It really started 150 years ago with Charles Darwin.
Okay.
It soon became, without any evidence, as someone once said, it made it perfectly respectable scientifically now to be an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
It was their get out of jail free card. It ennobled and emboldened the agnostics and the atheists in the world. And you're not allowed to question Charles Darwin, even though there's still no evidence of what he theoretically proposed 150 years ago with minimal evidence. It was a pretty clever theory,
Mm-hmm.
and it remains a clever theory. But I mean, that's how basic it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that started, and since that time, science has been frequently used to advance causes on the left, and some of them have had deadly consequences. And I talk in here about the whole DDT phenomenon of the 60s, which was launched by one woman who was in fact dying of cancer when she started writing the book, Rachel Carson, wrote this hugely influential book, Silent Spring, and which led to the banning of DDT by essentially all the Western countries.
Yeah.
The only problem was that DDT was enormously effective, and it was saving millions of lives in the third world because of its effect on malaria patients and others. In fact, it was used. It was one guy. The guy in my book. The book is called Hoodwinked. I focus on the people who went against the grain, And there's always been people who've gone against the scientific grain,
Mm-hmm.
always at a price. And the fellow who did it so in this case was a guy named Gordon Edwards, who was a entomologist, someone who was interested in, I believe that's the word, insect science and stuff.
Okay.
He had been in the war, in World War II. His guys were coming down with some horrible disease, cholera or something, and DDT, I don't know, dysentery or whatever, but they powdered them all with DDT. And it solved the problem. And they said, my gosh, this is a wonder drug. So Gordon Edwards was first really excited by Rachel Carson's book when it came out, and then he started reading it, and he said, this is nonsense. This is crap she's writing. And so what he would do is if she was going to speak in a town, he would go have a counter speech, and he would start it by eating a tablespoon of DDT, And this guy was a leftist, an environmentalist, a scientist. He knew his stuff more than Rachel Carson did. But no one listened to him, and they banned DDT. Michael Crichton, who was an iconoclast, the author,
Yeah.
he said it was the greatest scientific calamity of the 20th century,
I didn't know that.
the banning of DDT.
I always thought DDT was terrible.
Yeah, he did. When I was a kid, we ran behind it, and the trucks sprayed, and we all survived, you know. Literally, the truck would come by spraying DDT to kill the mosquitoes or whatever.
Yeah.
And the kids would all run behind it, you know, absorbing the DDT fumes.
Were you just having fun, or were you trying to get coated so you go out and play and not get bit by mosquitoes?
No, it was just fun to follow, you know. It was kind of cool. And,
Okay.
you know, and that's just like I say, when you were, you know, when I had this Asian flu in 1957, they didn't stop the World Series for me. You know?
Yeah. So yeah,
And then there was more. And then the one of the most egregious of the scientific scares that they introduced was the whole population bomb.
Right.
And this is Paul Ehrlich in '68. He comes out with this book. He sells 3 million copies. He's on Johnny Carson 20 times.
Yeah.
He had everyone believing that within a decade there would be a massive famine and destruction of human life unless the Pope blessed abortion, unless, you know, we did these dramatic, draconian things. And just like the word, those are the words that Margaret Sanger used, the founder of Planned Parenthood, to stop the spread of the defective races, the moron half of the American population, her words.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
needed Spartan methods.
Yes.
And that's what we're seeing today, Spartan methods, draconian methods. Ehrlich was wildly off base. His predictions were embarrassing, and yet he's still winning environmental awards. He's still alive.
You know, that's another thing that really confuses me, Jack, about the left. The science, the religion of science, but also just the straight up, either they don't know or they know and they just don't care, history.
Yeah.
It's like, again, the abortion topic is so dramatic, but more specifically, the Planned Parenthood topic is so dramatic and controversial. But you ask someone, you say, hey, do you know who founded Planned Parenthood? No, what's it matter? Well, because it was a white woman who wanted to euthanize black people.
Right.
Don't you think that that's
An issue?
an issue?
Well, it's
Yeah.
certainly an issue if she were on our side.
Well, sure.
Well, she'd be like, you know, she'd be, you know, her statues would be removed, etc.
There was a guy online who tried to hold me guilty for the sins of my father when I said, yeah, I support America first. And the guy says, don't you know that was the motto of the founder of American Nazis? That's what they wanted. I was like,
No,
I don't know.
By the way, he doesn't know his history, but that's neither here nor there.
well, you know, it's people are very brave when they're on a keyboard and no
right.
identify. But yeah, he says, well, I'll let you know that you basically are a Nazi because the American Nazi Party's founder was always promoting America first type stuff, which is that. And he's also, you know, twisting what a nationalist is or what it means to be proud for your.
Right.
So yeah, do you notice that also then? Do you notice that a lot of people just don't know or don't care about their history, especially Corona? When I say, you guys, at what cost are we going to try to fight this virus?
Right.
Because again, if you just kind of extrapolate the data economically and you look at history, you can see exactly what we should expect in the coming weeks and months.
Right. And you're right. And the responses are, even my friends on Facebook, for instance, the other day, and I've said, you know, when we went into this shutdown order, I said, this is nuts. I said, there's been 4 deaths combined in Kansas and Missouri. And then one guy says, I hope you're number 5.
See?
I mean, and then someone else said, I hope someone sneezes on you. What I also found when this...
My name is Ryan Derks. I'm running from Missouri's 5th Congressional District, and I approve this message.